Welcome to Guts and Guns.
For many of us, Labor Day, well, it marks the unofficial end of summer. We think of barbecues, parades, maybe some great retail sales. It's a day off, right? A final hurrah before the cooler weather sets in. But what if I told you there's a much deeper, maybe more turbulent story behind that long weekend? What we've uncovered points to Labor Day being a holiday steeped in profound contradictions, born from violent industrial conflict and established as a, well, calculated political maneuver.
That's a really critical observation. The public narrative, it often simplifies a history that was shaped by some intense struggle. This isn't just some benign tribute to workers, it's very much a political artifact. Our mission today is to peel back those layers, reveal the unseen origins, and explore the complex forces that truly define this holiday's form and purpose. Get ready for some insights that might fundamentally change how you view your next Labor Day.
Okay, so let's start by looking back. The American industrial era. Our research paints a pretty stark picture. I mean, far from any cheerful worker appreciation. This was a period defined by, well, systemic oppression and exploitation.
It truly was, yeah. To grasp the bigger picture, you really have to imagine the lives of ordinary workers back then. They were toiling for incredibly long hours, commonly 54 to 63 hours per week in unbelievably dangerous conditions. Consider this chilling statistic. Around the turn of the century, approximately 35,000 workers were dying annually in accidents.
35,000?
Annually. It's almost unfathomable, isn't it? To put that into perspective, I mean, imagine a small town just vanishing every single year due to industrial mishaps. And beyond the factory floor, life in these rapidly growing urban centers was just shattered by chronic unemployment and pervasive poverty. It was a brutal, relentless reality for the working class.
And when it came to rights or legal recourse, workers were essentially on their own, weren't they?
Virtually none. Yeah. American workers had extremely limited rights, basically just the ability to quit a job. That was about it. The legal system, particularly the judiciary, consistently sided with employers. Always. They often issued thousands of injunctions. These are, legal orders prohibiting specific actions against even nonviolent organizing efforts. And if workers dared to dissent or protest, they were frequently met with violent repression, often from private security forces, sometimes state militias. This fundamental power imbalance, it created an urgent and profound need and imperative for workers to organize collectively.
Right, and that's precisely where unions like the Knights of Labor and the American Federation of Labor, the AFL, stepped in. They were fighting for those most basic rights.
Yeah.
An 8-hour workday, better wages, safer conditions. It's the basics. So the push for Labor Day wasn't just some polite request for a day off, was it? It was part of a desperate struggle for survival, for dignity.
You've hit on a critical point there. This holiday, far from being a simple gift, truly represents a hard-won concession. It's a direct testament to the power of the labor movement to compel political change from a system that was, well, at its core, profoundly hostile to its very existence. It was a fight for basic human decency in an era of extreme industrial growth and, frankly, disregard for human life.
Okay, so given that brutal reality for workers, the long hours, the dangers, the lack of rights, it's clear something had to give. But how did this desperation spark the idea of a dedicated Labor Day?
Well, it certainly wasn't a top-down government initiative, as many might assume, no. Instead, it truly began as a grassroots spark. The very first Labor Day celebration happened on Tuesday, September 5, 1882, right in New York City. The Central Labor Union organized it, and it was quite an event for its time. Our sources tell us it featured a parade that drew between 10,000 and 20,000 participants.
10 to 20,000?
Yeah, a really significant display of solidarity and growing power. And this inaugural event, it immediately laid the groundwork. It prompted the Central Labor Union to hold a second, equally spirited celebration just a year later.
That's a massive turnout for an inaugural event. Especially when you think about the risks involved in openly organizing back then. And the idea, it caught on incredibly quickly at the state level, didn't it? Surprisingly fast.
It gained momentum with remarkable speed.
Yeah.
Oregon was actually the first state to make it law, officially recognizing Labor Day on February 21st, 1887. Then 4 more states, Colorado, Massachusetts, New Jersey, and New York, they followed later that same year.
The same year.
The same year. And by 1894, a staggering 23 more states had adopted the holiday. This rapid state-by-state progression, it clearly demonstrates the growing political power and the popular appeal of the labor movement across the nation.
So this widespread pre-existing recognition by over 24 states, the sheer momentum it had gathered, that tells us something important. The eventual federal law wasn't just some spontaneous act of governmental goodwill. It feels more like a politically necessary response, maybe even a capitulation, right, to a powerful national movement that had already proven its strength.
Exactly. The timeline alone is telling.
Yeah, from a single parade in 1882 to a multi-state holiday in just over a decade that built undeniable political pressure on the federal government. Okay, now, here's a fascinating twist in the narrative, one many people probably don't know. The true founder of Labor Day, it's been a historical dispute, a controversy largely fueled by, well, political motives. It actually comes down to two men with very, very similar names.
And this brings up an important discussion about historical revisionism, how narratives get constructed. The official record, including quite a few sources from the U.S. Department of Labor, has traditionally credited Peter J. McGuire. He was the General Secretary of the Brotherhood of Carpenters and Joiners and a co-founder of the AFL, the American Federation of Labor. He allegedly suggested setting aside a day for a general holiday for the laboring classes back in May 1882. That's the story.
Right.
The other contender is Matthew McGuire. He was the secretary of the Central Labor Union in New York, the group that organized the first parade. And later, he was secretary of the International Association of Machinists in Paterson, New Jersey. Many believe he was the one who actually proposed and organized that very first parade on September 5, 1882. In fact, there's a July 2, 1894 editorial in the Paterson Morning Call newspaper. It even referred to him as the undisputed author of Labor Day as a holiday. Right. And the confusion surrounding this, it wasn't accidental. It points to a deeper political motivation. See, Matthew McGuire was known for his more active socialist leanings. He actually served as an alderman in Paterson, and he even ran for vice president on the National Socialist Labor Party ticket in 1896.
Okay, so he was definitely more radical politically.
Considerably. And our sources suggest that Samuel Gompers, a key figure in the AFL and a much more moderate labor leader, preferred to distance the nascent holiday from Matthew McGuire's radical politics, didn't want that association.
So it was a strategic effort. Credit the more moderate Peter J. McGuire instead, a deliberate move to give the holiday a more palatable, maybe a non-political public face.
Yeah.
To sort of control the narrative of the labor movement.
Precisely. At a critical juncture in its growth in public perception, this deliberate act of historical revisionism was only belatedly corrected, at least in part, much later, in 1968. That's when U.S. Secretary of Labor Willard Wirtz officially declared Matthew McGuire the father of Labor Day.
1968. Wow, that took a long time.
It did. It really highlights just how profoundly historical narratives can be shaped and sometimes, manipulated at critical points by institutional forces trying to control a movement's image.
So we've seen this grassroots movement gain incredible traction at the state level, and there was even this battle over its true founder. What then finally pushed the federal government to officially recognize Labor Day? What was the trigger for such a big national policy change?
That's where the story takes a really dramatic turn. It directly links its passage to one of the most significant and violent labor disputes in American history, the Pullman Strike of 1894. The Labor Day law was quite literally rushed through Congress and then signed into effect on June 28, 1894.
Okay.
Just 6 days after the violent conclusion of that strike.
6 days.
6 days. This timing, it strongly suggests it was anything but coincidental.
Right. Tell us more about the Pullman Strike. What made it so impactful, so violent?
Well, the strike began after the Pullman Palace Car Company, a huge railroad corporation, cut workers' wages by a staggering 25%.
25%.
Yeah. And crucially, they did not lower the rents in their company-owned town.
The company town trap.
Exactly, essentially trapping workers in a cycle of debt and desperation. In response, the American Railway Union, which was led by the socialist Eugene V. Debs, launched a massive boycott of all Pullman cars. This action quickly paralyzed rail traffic across the entire nation. It disrupted commerce, communication, everything, on an unprecedented scale.
And President Grover Cleveland's response to this national paralysis, our sources are very clear about his actions here.
He intervened forcefully, dramatically. Cleveland sent federal troops and U.S. Marshals to break the strike. He justified his actions by citing the disruption of U.S. mail delivery and interstate commerce. That was the official reason. This government suppression, this violent intervention, led to the tragic deaths of at least a dozen workers.
A dozen deaths.
At least. It was a severe use of federal power against striking laborers.
So let's be absolutely clear. The bill making Labor Day a federal holiday was signed immediately after a government-sanctioned violent crackdown, even a massacre of striking workers. Our sources are explicit. Cleveland's decision was, quote, not an act of genuine appreciation, but one of political appeasement. He was deeply concerned about the widespread civil unrest and, very practically, about his re-election campaign.
Absolutely.
It's hard to ignore the symbolism there, offering a holiday for workers right after such a brutal event.
It was undeniably a reactive measure designed to pacify a radicalized populace rather than being some proactive tribute to labor. The timing alone is just a profound indicator that its establishment was a calculated political move, meant to quell potential further unrest following such a brutal suppression of a major labor action. It was damage control, plain and simple.
Okay, this context totally reframes the federal holiday. It wasn't just a nice gesture. So what does all of this mean for the date we celebrate? Why September? So many other countries around the world honor workers in May, on May Day. This seems like another deliberate choice, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It was a deliberate choice and a really crucial piece of this whole puzzle. For years, labor movements worldwide had rallied on May 1st. Now, this date, May Day, it commemorates the 1886 Haymarket Affair. That was a violent confrontation between striking workers and police in Chicago.
Haymarket.
Yeah. May Day was deeply steeped in the, quote, radical politics of anarchists, communists, and socialists ideologies that were deeply feared and often violently suppressed by the established powers of the era. Its observance represented a direct link to international labor solidarity and protest, often carrying with it a revolutionary spirit.
So the United States establishing a separate holiday in September was a conscious, strategic effort to distance itself from those more radical associations.
Exactly. It was a strategic maneuver designed to distance Labor Day from the more intense and at times radical associations of May 1st. By creating this less ideologically charged alternative, the U.S. government effectively, sanitized the labor movement's history for public consumption. It transformed a day that could have been a site of revolutionary protest into a more moderate, American-centric celebration.
And ironically, one that is now more commonly associated with retail sales and the unofficial end of the summer season.
Yeah.
A far cry from its tumultuous, politically charged origins. It's really a striking example of how a holiday's purpose can be reframed and kind of assimilated into mainstream culture, ultimately fulfilling the political motives that initially shaped its timing and branding.
Indeed. It's a fascinating look at how history can be, shall we say, curated, carefully managed.
So what does this all mean for you listening out there as you reflect on Labor Day? Our deep dive reveals that while it's a day to honor American workers, its origins are, far from simple. It was a hard-won concession, yes, but also a political stratagem and a narrative carefully constructed to steer the labor movement away from its more radical roots.
Which raises an important question, doesn't it? How does understanding these profound contradictions, a holiday born from violent conflict with a disputed founder and a politically motivated date, how does that change your perspective on the picnics and parades we see today? Does it make you view the day differently? Think about it differently.
Yeah. Next time you celebrate Labor Day, maybe consider not just the leisure and the sales, but the decades of struggle, the lives lost, and those deliberate political decisions that shaped this holiday into the, quote, sanitized version of American labor history it often appears to be. Perhaps it's a day to reflect on the ongoing fight for worker rights, too, and how far we've truly come, or maybe how far we still need to go.
We hope you enjoyed this week's episode. Tune in again.